Hey everyone, welcome to the Union Pacific Railroad Evanston Subdivision, the N-scale inspired HO layout. My name is Daryl Kruse, owner and builder of the layout, and your host for episode 13 of season 2022. And as you can see, color and texture has been added to the scenery. We no longer have a snowscape of white plaster. We actually have some vegetation and some color on the rock, and we have it actually looking like a real landscape. I have to say before we get too far that I am very happy with the way some of this turned out and not so happy with the way other parts of it has turned out. I'll let you look at this and see if you can figure out which ones I like and what part I didn't like. We'll get to that in a little bit. But this episode is, of course, about adding scenery. But I also am giving you an overall look of the layout, kind of where things are today as compared to how they were a few months ago or when we first moved in 7-8 months ago. And you can see that there's a lot of progress that has been made. This is what the basement looked like when we first moved into the house. It was definitely a blank slate, which I actually was very happy with. Gave me a chance to design exactly what I wanted to have in this layout with 2,200 square feet. And this is what I started with. A lot of room and a lot of blank slate. And of course, this is what it looks like today, coming down the stairs into the basement. And things have definitely changed quite a bit. Now, we moved into this house 8 months ago, but actually I've only been working on the layout about 6.5, maybe 7 months, because I spent the first month doing other things on the house, including building a deck. Here's the staging yard, by the way. That was the first part I worked on. Just kind of give you an overall view or overall idea of where things are today. We do have signaling throughout the layout. We have Morgan there on the first corner with a couple of underpasses. Notice how we have a lot of open spaces, a lot of room for operators. I am providing a couple of track plans. You can pause it later, or if you want, you can kind of see how things all kind of fit together. You have the first level, lower level, and now the upper level. Oftentimes people ask about the track plan, so there it is. But the layout starts off in the staging yards in Morgan. Then we have the Taggart tunnels and double slide. Here we have another nice big wide aisle. This is about 5.5 feet wide, and then another open space. I definitely did not want to crowd a bunch of layout into a small space. I wanted nice open areas, lots of room for operators, nice broad, large radius curves. And that's definitely the N-scale inspired part of this layout. Now here you can see we do have some scenery that I worked on this week. Again, part of it I was very happy with. Other parts I'm a little bit disappointed. But there's, of course, lots of time and a couple more chances to get things right. Anybody decided yet what they think I liked and what I didn't like? Put a lot of different textures on here. Started with paint, added ground foam. One thing I really liked was the way that the water runoff, you can kind of see how the water runs with the vegetation growing along the path of the flow of water. There's going to be a culvert there. Once I get the culvert in, I'll add some more vegetation there. Did not get all of the scenery done, as you can see. I had a little bit of a change of methods. I thought I was going to use blended fine turf for the base of the texture, but ended up switching to yellow grass fine turf. I only had one canister of that, so I had kind of ran out. But I will be able to get working on the rest of it this week, hopefully. All right, from the Castle Rock area that has the scenery started, then it goes around the peninsula and continues to climb to Wasatch. Again, this gives you an idea of where things are today. And this is coming up to the point. This is as far as I've gotten with track, bench work, and road bed. And then this is the part of the layout that I still am going to be working on. This is going to be the Evanston Yard area. I'm hoping this week not only to get the rest of the scenery done, but to also get the finished, that part of the room finished with sheetrock and paint. All right, this is what I started out with. I was planning on doing the whole section. As you can see, I taped off pretty much all the track. I decided to use Bear paint. This is Sonoran Desert color. And then I was going to use a blended turf as the base. I had 4 canisters of that because I figured I would use a lot. Turns out when I started with the blended fine turf, it was too dark and too green. And so I switched over to yellow grass as the base color that I was going to put on. So this is the first layer, first coat of paint, and then a layer of ground foam, the fine turf yellow grass by Woodland Scenics. And I used a whole canister to cover this whole area. And then I had to stop because I just had the one canister. Then I added the blended turf on top of the yellow. Now when you would look at just the yellow, it was a very consistent color on all of the areas. Now as you can see, when I put in the blended turf, you have a varying color from place to place. You don't have one solid color. Using diluted white glue, I then added some static grass. Now you can't really see the static grass from the video. I used 2 millimeter static grass, which is 6 or 7 inches. So it's a fairly long grass, not like prairie grass by any means, but it definitely does represent the short grasses that you have out in this part of the country. Now for proof that there is static grass on there, I did take a picture here to show that there is in fact static grass. And as I said, you can't see it on the video, but when you are looking at it in person, it definitely does give the effect of it being grass and not ground foam. You don't really actually, when you look at it, you don't actually say, oh look, they have static grass there. Instead, it just kind of gives the look of grass. And it just looks a lot more like grass than it does ground foam. So it definitely turned out to be a pretty nice effect. So I'm very happy with that. Now here's the part I'm not happy with. The rocks, I was really frustrated with the color of the rocks. Not happy with the way it turned out at all. This is too dark and too red maybe, or too dark of a red, too deep of a red. I needed to be more pinkish orange type of red and not this dark red. This is what I started out with. I was really unhappy with this and was really kind of upset with myself that I let it get like this. I did try to work with it some more and line it up again. It looks better by all means, but I'm still not happy with it. So overall, I give myself an A for the ground cover. I think the ground foam, the color I picked for the for the paint, the ground foam, the static grass, the clump foliage, the trees, the way that you can kind of tell the water flow coming down between the rocks, and then through the culvert there will be even more greenery as I put the culvert in at that end. So I was really happy with the way that turned out. Here's a picture of the actual Castle Rock area that I'm trying to emulate, and this was taken at dusk after the sun had just gone over the horizon, so everything here is darker than what it would be in actual daylight. And I think, as I said, I think the ground cover came out pretty good, but the rock color just is not quite right. So I'm going to be working on that a little bit more to see if I can't improve that. Don't really have the strata effect that they have there also. I'm not too concerned about that. The rock on the right has a little bit more of the strata than the rock on the left. But I'm not really too concerned about that. I'm more concerned about the color. But I think the actual, other than the color of the rock, I think it came out pretty good. So an A for the ground cover, a C, C minus, D plus on the rock color. I'm not sure, but I am going to get some different paints. I think the color I was missing is white. So I'm going to buy some more paint and see if I can't do better. Now, this picture shows all the different layers that are on the ground cover. You have the paint is the first layer, the yellow grass fine turf is the second layer, the blended fine turf is the third layer, then you have the static grass on top of that, and then finally I used some coarse turf of the light green part of it, and then finally the clump foliage, and then rocks. So that's some of the plaster that we saved, and I colored them. Notice that they are lighter. Those actually turned out better than the regular rocks. And then the trees and everything. Like I said, I think that came out pretty well. Now the other thing I kind of wanted to share with you is on these trucks that I got from Trucks and Stuff. Trucks and then Stuff. These were only $16 for the tractor trailer set, which I thought was outstanding, and the quality is actually quite good. It's probably as detailed as a lot of the Trainworks tractor trailer sets I had in N scale, and those things were like $50 or more. These were $16, and maybe not the absolute highest quality, but for $16, I was really happy with the way these look. There are some clunkiness to it. I think maybe some of the piping. One thing that really kind of looks clunky is the rear view mirrors on this here. The bars that attach the rear view mirrors to the truck. That's a little clunky. But I really like these trucks. It's the kind of trucks that I saw at the Wholesome Cement area. Maybe not exactly like these, but this is kind of what we saw. So I definitely want some of these in the area around Wholesome Cement. All right, the scenery looks good. Looks even better with trains going through. So we'll take a look at some trains passing through the scenery. And on these first couple of trains, I'm going to use a technique that I've used before and was also suggested by a number of people, and that is to start with the lead locomotives going through, and then as the train goes by, kind of do a transformation where you go from the beginning of the train to the end of the train, and you skip the middle part of the train. And you can see it just now transitioned, and now we're towards the end of the train. So you don't have to sit and watch every single train, but you do get a chance to see the lead locomotives, the train, and then, of course, the end of the train. So I'll be doing a lot of that for shooting operating trains as we see the dupe go by. And here we'll see another one. The first one went through on the original main line, which generally will not have trains coming down the incline. They will. It's this track that they will not. So most of the trains coming down will be coming down the original main line. Here we see a train coming down on the modern main line, which will be used mostly for trains going up the incline. But if you watch this, you'll see the transition from the front of the train to the back of the train, so you don't have to watch the whole thing. So I'll be doing some of that. I will do some where you see every single car in the train from beginning to end. I definitely will be doing that. And then there'll be some times where I'll just simply cut from one area to the next area and focus on the locomotives. Just depending on the train and the type of cars in the train, whether it has a dupe or not, and so on. And from the poll that people participated in, over 60% voted for a mix. And then probably a little bit more preferred to see the entire train as opposed to focusing just on the lead locomotives. Here we have some trains going in the other direction. A coal train headed up by a couple of Athearn SD70 ACEs. It'll look even better once I get the ballast in, which I'll do at some point in time. Here you kind of see it coming through on the other side of the Castle Rocks and heading into the tunnel. I'm looking forward to getting this whole area done to see the trains coming through the entire area. I'm going to be working on the tunnel portals today or tomorrow, and then get the rest of the scenery done. Once I get that done, here we're switching to a drone view. Get an idea of how things look. So next week's update will have hopefully the rest of the scenery completed. We'll have the rocks the correct color, and we'll have the Evanston room sheetrocked and painted. We'll see if I can get all that done in a week. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Have a great week. Take care.